Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2021 Jeep Gladiator. I'm going to walk through how to install the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable tabs. This is what our base plate is going to look like when it's installed. This is going to be one of the 5 main components needed to flat tow the vehicle. The other 4 are going to be your safety cables, which are a secondary safety device, your tow bar, which connects to the base plate and to the motorhome, your wiring, which allows the motorhome to transfer light signals back to the vehicle so that everybody knows what you're doing, whether it's braking, turning, or driving at night. And then of course your braking system. Braking systems are required in any vehicle being flat towed behind a motorhome. Base plate is going to attach to the chassis of the vehicle to give us that solid connection point for our tow bar. Steel construction, black powder coat finish, so it's going to stay looking nice for a really long time. You can see it really maintains a nice clean look on the front of the vehicle. What we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and disconnect everything, let you look at it without everything connected so you can see what it looks like if you're driving the vehicle normal. So as I mentioned, our tabs are removable. We're simply going to pull this ring, twist, we'll slide the tab out. With this base plate, it's going to come with a cap. This is going to help keep the inside of that from getting grimed up. Push that in, and you can see it maintains a nice clean look on the front of the vehicle. Here we're going to have our safety chain loops. So our safety chains coming from a motorhome are going to hook on the ends. We're going to have 2 rods to attach our 6-pole plug to the front. It's also going to have a plate pre-welded on for your breakaway switch on your braking system. A couple of things to keep in mind. With this being a Blue Ox base plate, you have some individuals like Blue Ox, you have some individuals like Roadmaster. What I recommend is if you're setting up the flat tow setup new, you don't already have a tow bar, try to match your components. For instance, having a Blue Ox base plate, go with a Blue Ox tow bar. If you like Roadmaster, same goes. The reason I say that is a lot of times you'll find if you have a Blue Ox tow bar with a Roadmaster base plate or a Blue Ox base plate with a Roadmaster tow bar, a lot of the times they will not connect because they're going to have different removable arms. And then you would have to get new arms here or new connectors on the end of your tow bar. In my opinion, it makes it easier if you just try to match the same Roadmaster or Blue Ox base plate with a Roadmaster or Blue Ox tow bar, and then your connections are very easy. You don't have to get any extra components. Now there are different base plates available for the Gladiator. In my honest opinion, I like the way this one is. I think it looks good on the vehicle. It gives you somewhere to mount all of your components. With the other ones, the other types, which you can find here at eTrailer, some of them may not have this crossbar. That crossbar may be hidden back behind, and they may be just separate without a crossbar at all. The problem with those is even though they come with a bracket to mount this stuff, it takes everything and mounts it to one side or the other. And really this stuff needs to be mounted towards the center of the vehicle. So, and it's kind of a pain to mount it on the side of the base plate. So if you decide not to use that, you would have to mount these up through the bumper. I, myself, on a new vehicle, would rather not drill into my bumper to mount this stuff if I don't have to. Go with a base plate like this. It's going to come with what you need to mount everything onto your base plate and get it centered in the middle of the vehicle. Some important information to keep in mind is we want our tow bar to be as flat as possible between the 2 vehicles. We want the number or the measurement to be within 3 inches. How we determine that is on our motorhome side, we're going to measure from the ground to the center of our receiver tube, which on this vehicle it's at 22.5 inches. On the vehicle side, to the center of our base plate, we're at 15.5 inches. So we have a 7-inch gap. It's going to require a high-low adapter. There are different sizes and different length high-low adapters which you can find here at eTrailer. With a 7-inch gap, there is not a 7-inch high-low adapter. What I recommend is going with a 6-inch high-low adapter instead of an 8-inch. The reason is because we're only at 7 inches, that would make us even. If we went with an 8-inch, our tow bar would actually be facing up at the vehicle. With a 6-inch, it's actually going to be facing down, which in my professional opinion is the better way to go. if you find that you are going to need a high-low adapter, most of the high-low adapters are not going to come with the extra pin and clip. Tow bar, if it's mounted here, is going to have one, but when you move it down here, you're going to need one for your high-low adapter into your receiver. You can find the pin and clips here at eTrailer. These are going to be 5/8 for a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening. Another thing to keep in mind is when you add this, you want to make sure that you keep in mind your safety cables. You're adding on extra, so it's pushing the vehicle back. If your safety cables are too short, it's going to require extensions. You can find those here at eTrailer. If you're setting up your vehicle new and you add the high-low adapter, you can get longer extension cables to make up the difference. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk you through how to get it installed. Start your installation. We're going to start on the front here. You're going to have a panel that runs right down the center, right behind your bumper. You're going to have 2 push pin fasteners. You can take a flathead screwdriver or a pick like we have here, and you're going to pull up the center. And then we want to pull the base out as well. We're going to have another one on the other side. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go down underneath, we're going to remove our roll pan. Then we're going to take a 5/16 socket, a roll pan, we're going to have a bolt here, we're going to have one on the opposite side. We're going to remove both of those. Next, you're going to take your pick or your flathead screwdriver. You're going to have push pin fasteners that look like this, and they're going to run all the way across right through here. You're going to take all those out, and then this panel will come down. Pull out the top and the base. And then we'll set this aside for now. Next, we're going to take a 16mm socket. We're going to remove our skid plate. You're going to have a bolt on one side. We'll have a bolt on the other where it's going to lift. And then we'll set this aside. On your passenger side, we're going to have a plug. We need to disconnect that. You're going to push down on the gray part there, and we'll separate the 2 plugs. On the inside of your bumper, you're going to have 4 nuts we need to remove on each side of the vehicle. You're going to have 2 on the inside of the frame rail, 2 on the outside. 18mm socket will remove those. Sometimes an impact isn't going to loosen these, so if you take your socket wrench, loosen them all up, you can come back with your impact and take them all off. Maybe easier if you're using an impact with an extension to put a swivel on it. Once we get one side done, we're going to repeat the process on the other. Once we get it all off, we're going to slide our bumper off, and then we'll set it aside. We'll take our 16mm socket on the outside of the frame rail. We're going to remove this bolt holding this bracket in place. We're going to pull this bracket off, we're going to set it aside. We're going to be reinstalling it later on. We're going to repeat that on the other side of the vehicle. Next, we're going to come to the front of our frame rail. We're going to mark a line. Just like this on each side. We're going to do this on both frame rails. Then we're going to take a cutting blade. We're going to cut those 2 lines. And what we need to do is we need to take this piece and we need to bend it in and up. This is going to give us access for our hardware. It may be easier to get that to bend if you put a slight cut across the top. If you really wanted to, you cut it all the way off. Just like that. And we're going to repeat that same thing on the other side. Once you get both cut out, you're going to take some Rust-Oleum paint. We're going to paint that bare metal to prevent any rusting later on. Next, we're going to take our frame bracket that we removed earlier. We're going to line it up with the hole, and we're going to clamp it to the frame. Like that. We're going to repeat that on the other side. Next, with the next set of hands, we're going to slide our base plate up into place. This very front hole, we're going to line it up with this hole. And we're going to install the bolt that we removed earlier to remove this bracket. We're just going to loosely install it for now. Now, the instructions are going to tell you to line up the base plate with the holes in the frame rail and then tighten this bolt and the other one down. I like to get my hardware installed first and then go back and tighten everything down. What you're going to need here, 1/2-inch bolt, you're going to put a lock washer on it. We're going to take some red Loctite. Red Loctite is going to go on all of our hardware that we're installing from here on out. You're going to need a handle nut and this plate. We're going to line up these two holes with these two holes in the base plate and in the frame rail. So we're going to go in like this. We're going to slide this bolt through that bracket, that spacer bracket, and through the frame rail. We're going to take our handle nut, from underneath there's a hole. Take our handle nut up, and we're going to loosely install it on that bolt. And we're going to take a 3/8 bolt. Make sure you put your Loctite on, lock washer, then a flat washer. And we're going to go through this bottom hole. We're going to take a handle nut that looks like this. Sometimes it might be easier if you kind of bend it like this, and like that. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We'll go up from the bottom, and we'll thread our bolt into that plate. And we're going to take our second 3/8 bolt, same combination of hardware, lock washer, flat washer, red Loctite. We're going to go through this hole in our base plate and through our frame rail. And then we'll take our handle nut and we'll do the same thing we did with the other ones. So now what we're going to do is we're going to line this up to the top edge. We just want them in a straight line. So let's kind of adjust it a little bit, and then we'll snug up all of our hardware. Once you get one side tight, I'll come back and do the same thing to the other side. This very top back hole, we're going to drill it out to a 1/2 inch. We're just going through this outside portion of the frame rail. What I like to do is you can just go with a 1/2 inch drill bit and drill it out. However, you're going to wear out your drill bit and you're going to wear out your shoulders because we're going to do it on each side. What I like to do is use a 1/2 inch drill bit. We're just going to start it, and that's going to make our mark center in that hole. Basically acts as a hole punch. Now I'm going to do a step bit. I'm going to start with a small one. I'm going to step it up every couple bits until we get to a 1/2 inch. going to take one of your 1/2-inch bolts, lock washer. You have a spacer block like this. It's going to go right in between your base plate and the frame rail. It's going to fill the gap between the two. Handle nut. We're going to go through this hole that we cut in the front of the frame rail and attach it to the back side of the bolt. Maybe easier if you have somebody hold a flashlight, aim it right inside of this slot here. Once we get that in, we'll come back and we'll tighten it down. Once you get one side done, you're going to repeat that process on the other. Once you get all your hardware tightened down, we're going to come back and we're going to torque everything to the specifications and the instructions. Once you get all your hardware torqued down to the specification and instruction, we're going to come back and we're going to cut all the ends of these off. We'll bend it inside the frame rail. Next we'll come back, we'll reinstall our skid plate using the factory hardware. Come back and tighten those down. Now before we put our bumper in place, when we put this bracket back on, sometimes these holes in this bracket are not lined up exactly right. It's going to be hard to get the bolts from the bumper through there. So what you can do, you can take a drill bit and we'll just kind of ream out that hole so when we go to put our bumper back in, it goes in pretty easy. Next we're going to install our safety cables. We want to get right up behind our body mount here, behind it, and we're going to attach it here. But on the inside, we have quite a bit of stuff we need to make sure that we're not pinching. We want to make sure we're staying away from any of the moving parts. So we may have to go from in here and try to go out with it. These cables are pretty thick. Going out with that. And we're going to have a large ring that's going to look like this. Like that. Then we'll come back with a wrench and we'll tighten that down. So what I like to do for this outside one, so it's not hanging out like this, is right there, take a zip tie, we'll run it through here, and we'll zip tie this line here, and then on the inside, this bar here moves. We have a hard line right here. We can take and we can zip tie that right there. And that'll keep that from potentially getting in the way of it. We don't have to make this one real tight. We just want to make it so it stays away from there. Next, we need to line up our belly pan because we're going to need to trim it. Potentially, we're going to be trimming out a small section here on each side. What we're going to do is we're going to line it up as close as we can get. Give us an idea of what we need to trim. So we've got it marked. Now there's not any exact instruction on as far as measuring to get it exactly right. Basically what we're going to do is this last hole that we lined up with on our base plate, basically going to be cutting that in a straight line down to about where this last curve is here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut inside of it first. We'll test fit it and see if we need to take off any more. then what you can do is all these pieces, you just take them and push them in. A lot of times you can break them off. You can take a knife, just run it down the side like this, or you can use a file. Now that we've got both sides cut out, we'll go ahead and test fit it and see if we need to trim out anymore. So you can see it's pushing the outside piece out, so we'll come back and we'll just trim this one just a little bit wider here on each side. To give you a rough idea of how long this needs to be, like I said, there's no specific in the instructions on how much you have to cut. Rough idea, you're looking at about 8 inches from here down. The width of it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch. Once you have your bolts put back in holding your pan in place, you're going to reinstall your fasteners that run across the front. Keep in mind, we cut out 2 of them, so you'll have 2 of them left over. If for some reason you can't get your hand up in here, like it's hard for me to get my fingers up in there, if you take a trim panel tool, something like this, and you put the fastener in like that, you can slide it up in the hole a little bit easier. Once you get your bottom fasteners installed, reinstall your top fasteners. Don't forget to connect your wiring on your passenger side, and you're ready to go. That's going to do it for a look at and installation on the Gladiator base plate kit with removable arms on a 2021 Jeep Gladiator.